Am I on? Ah, there we go. So good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thank you all for coming out to the last seminar of the day. Before the lights went up, I recognised a few faces, so you're probably here to see if I mess this up. And there's some faces that I don't recognise, so you might know a little bit about the Red Devils, or you might not know anything at all. Before we begin the presentation, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Lance Corporal Cameron Clark. I've been in the Army for 10 years, and I've been in the Red Devils for 5 years. My first jump was a LLP jump. They're the military jump, stands for low-level parachuting, was in 2014. But I didn't really begin my skydiving career until 2016. My first jump was in Rappa in Germany. For those of you that remember it, it was the Rhine Army Parachute Association. Sadly, it closed down about 5 years ago. And as you can see there, 1,500 plus jumps. I added the crew in because that's all I really do. That's what I enjoy doing. That's where my expertise lie. And 140 demos. Currently within the Red Devils, I'm the Red Devil Chief Rigger and the Red Devil Stack Pilot. So Stack Pilot, I'm basically in charge of all the crew training and making sure that crew gets into a demo arena. Next slide is just going to be all of our highlights from 2022.
Feel the shadows hanging over, but wait, no, come closer. To come and take me away, and I can feel my heart skip every time that I sleep. I wanna run away.
So that's all of our highlights from 2022. Obviously, on the end of that video, there was a sad reminder that last year we lost a former Red Devil, Sergeant Walton. So moving on in the presentation, so what I'm going to explain today is who the Red Devils are, what we do, and a question we get quite a lot of the time is why? Why does the Army need a parachute display team? So we're going to start with the who. So we're going to go all the way back to 1963. So in 1963, the man on the left there, Lieutenant Ed Gardner, he come up with the idea to start an Army parachute display team. At the time, most of the battalions had parachute clubs. So we recruited a few guys from those clubs, got together and approached the Army with this idea. The problem was we needed money. So he approached the regiment and the regiment offered him a small loan to help them get through 1 year, with the promise that it would be paid back at the end of the year. But the Army also said they would not pay for the kit and equipment. If you guys really want to pull this off, you will have to pay for your own kit and equipment. So the original Red Devils there, which is still up in our office, down near Netheravon, there are a couple of the original guys. Next couple of slides, we're just going to get some photos up on the screen, just through history up until today in 2023. So here we have, that's Lieutenant Ed Gardner that we've seen previously, and that's a couple of the original Red Devils there. Next photo we have here, although it's in black and white, the jumpsuits, they're still sporting the iconic red jumpsuits. With some people don't realise, we've stuck with the colour white helmet. This is just iconic to the Red Devils. On the right, we have some of the parachutes that were jumping. I believe this was during the 70s. And the reason I like the photo on the left is because if you was on your front risers that low nowadays, it's not going to end nicely. Next we have here, so that would have been a Red Devil sporting some military jumping equipment. This is a lot like the low-level parachute. If you look at this container here, that would have been for his rifle. Looks like this photo was done for maybe a soldier magazine or a magazine just talking about the type of jump equipment in the era. Next up, I'm sure a lot of people here know who this is. This is Jackie Smith. She's done a presentation here a couple of years ago. If you want to know a lot more about Jackie Smith, you can go back and watch that. Why is Jackie Smith iconic? She was the first female on the Red Devils. A lot of people don't realise we have and do have females on the Red Devils. We've had 5 in history, with Jackie being the first. She achieved a lot in her time, and the latest female we had was Sergeant Stacey Briggs. She left the team this year. But I'm sure in the future we will be recruiting more females. Next photo here was cut out of a newspaper. I'm sure she won't mind me putting this up. This is Jackie Smith again. Obviously this isn't Jackie Smith. But I like the statement down here. Steve Slater says, "We're fed up with seeing her face, so here's one with her back to the camera." The reason I like this, as I was going through the archive, every 2-3 photos Jackie Smith appeared. That clearly shows that she left a large imprint on the team with all of her achievements. And she left high bar for everybody else that joined after her, including the men. Another point in time when the Red Devils were lucky enough to have their own plane, go red. As far as I've heard, it maybe wasn't the best financial situation for the team. However, I can guarantee demos were a lot easier. And the next video actually is just a video of some Red Devils sporting taking the canopies of their era for a fly for an advert.
Practice day for the Army's Red Devils.
So that was high performance canopies around that day. Something I missed off at the first slide, I just need to go over. So they come up with the idea in 1963, but the team was officially formed in 1964, January 1964. So that was probably the most experienced Red Devils, jumping the high performance canopies of that era. The next video is going to be one of the most experienced Red Devils jumping one of the highest performance canopies nowadays. It's raw footage. You very rarely get to see raw footage nowadays because people put fancy songs and speed it up and all sorts, but this is raw footage. A massive advancement, right? So we are skipping forward in a bit of history. This is just a belly fly formation over Skydive to land in part of our team training we do every year. But the point I like about this, we're still sporting the iconic red jumpsuit with the white helmet. We're still sticking to our roots. And up to last year, our canopy formations have come along through the years. Last year, we managed to pull off the quad. This isn't a first on the Red Devils. It got performed 11 years ago. We've been trying to keep doing it. So we eventually got it last year. And trust me, them 11 years, it wasn't through the lack of trying. So what do the Red Devils look like in 2023? So the personnel we're made up of is 1 officer, 1 senior NCO, 12 junior NCOs, and we have 1 reservist from 4 Power also. NCOs, for those that are not in the military, just stands for non-commissioned officer. So the experience level on the team. Between us, we have over 26,000 jumps and over 3,000 demos. To break that up a little bit more, 10,000 of those jumps are between just our JM and team leader. And 1,000 of them demonstrations are between those two also. So it shows you how more experienced the higher guys are on the team. Red Devils criteria. I'm sure everyone's wondering, well, how do I get in? So firstly, you have to be serving in the military. You must have served 3 years minimum in a parachute regiment battalion. Obviously, there is some exceptions to this with females joining the team. There has been a female recently that has passed B company, so it's not doable. But we give exceptions. If there's a job role on the team that cannot be filled by someone in a parachute regiment battalion, which sometimes is the clerk or the medic, then we'll source that from elsewhere. However, they're always held up to our own standards. Must have 1 operational tour, or in brackets, a couple of overseas exercises. Overseas exercises is just trips away training with other military. So the reason that's in brackets is with today's day and age, there's less and less operational tours going on. I'm sure some of the guys would wish they're still going on, but if they're not going on, it means the world's getting a little bit better, right? Probably not. Anyway, the next one we have, must have a minimum of a British Skydiving A licence. Everyone here is going to probably agree that that's the first licence you get. It's quite low. I know when I joined the Red Devils, I thought it was going to be a lot higher. However, there is a reason for that. When people just get their A licence, they're like a sponge. They take in information and they often retain it quite quickly. When someone's got a lot of jumps, it's often harder to teach them new skills. And demo jumping, as those of you that have done it out there, is a completely different ballgame. I must have passed a Red Devils Army Parachute Display Team assessment course. Fancy word for it, but it's just 2 weeks. They come down to us and we basically assess the guys on their aptitude, their discipline, their retention of information, and also their skydiving ability. But their skydiving ability is not of the utmost importance. We believe that skydiving can be taught to almost anyone. So just breaking down some of the members on the team. Obviously at the top, we have our officer commanding, Captain Stephen Childs. He's been in the Army for 30 years. He's an LE captain. And his job in the office is a direct link to home command. Okay? That's the people basically above us. Anything we do within the team carries a risk and has to be signed off, and our funding and stuff goes through home command. He's a risk holder, and although he's the OC and he has the highest rank on the team, he still has to graft and dig in, so he's ground party on demos and tandem days. He doesn't just get the day off. Next up, Team Sergeant, Sergeant Nate Fisher. He deals with administration on the team, so if any of us guys need vehicles or hotels, or we have any home dramas, we'll go up to him and help us sort those out. He's also in charge of discipline. We're all adults on the team. There's not too much discipline that's needed. And although he's Team Sergeant Major, he's number 3 on the crew. Once again, when it comes to jumping, it all comes down to your ability, not your rank. And he's camera for tandems. So I'll group these two together. That's our team leader and jump master. Like I mentioned earlier, these are the most experienced on the team. In the office, they're basically in charge of risk assessments. We're in the Army, we have to fill out risk assessments for everything. They're trained in risk assessments. I am very happy I'm not trained in risk assessments because they're very boring. But also, if you look at the top, some of you may realise the British Skydiving Ops Manual. So we all fall under that and we all follow those rules and guidelines. Being military, we also have something called the Display Parachute Operation Manual. We're on version 8 at the moment, and that is everything in the British Skydiving Ops Manual with more added rules on top. So it gets harder for us to do things, basically. So all of the Army parachute display teams fall under both of them. And the Red Devils, trying to be as safe as we can, we also have our Red Devils standard operating procedures. So that's another load of rules thrown on top. As you can imagine, that's quite a lot to retain. These two guys are experts of that. Everyone on the team will have a basic knowledge, but they'll overlook everything we do, making sure we're not going out the guidelines. Rigging department. I like this one because if you look at Private Hobbs on the right, he's been in the rigging room for 3 weeks. Max has been in for about 2 years, and I've been stuck in there for 5. You slowly get more and more miserable and age a lot. So I'm in charge of the rigging room, but all together we just basically dig in and we look after all the kit and equipment. You would have seen the large flags, and you would have heard about our probes and all of our other ancillaries. They are built, they are designed, built, and obviously tested within our own rigging room. Next up, media department, world's worst boy band. Up here, we have Lance Corporal Oliver Goss. He's basically in charge of the media department. What these guys do is they capture all the footage, they edit all the footage, they put it on social media, but also they have to monitor all of our social media stats. So these guys do have a busy job. Corporal Hanley there also has the job of display coordinator. So whenever somebody wants a display, they'll contact us, and Steve basically deals with all the admin for that. Also our other jobs, Ollie's a cameraman, Steve is also sometimes part of the crew team, tandem instructor, so we all have other jobs when it comes to demos. Tandem coordinators, some people are not aware, we run tandems through the year. That would be Corporal Mole and Corporal Kingston. If a tandem request comes in, they go through the various email chains, contact the people, tell them where to go, and they also decide when and where we do tandems and how it's going to happen. And last but not least, PR and sponsorship. Lance Corporal Louis Cuddy. Yeah, he deals with all our sponsorship. You would have seen our jumpsuits. We have 4 sponsors on the front. They basically help us along through the year. When he's in the office, he's the storeman. Not a fun job. We have a large cage with all the equipment that's not being used. It gets stored away so it can't be signed out by anybody that hasn't got permission. So hopefully that's given you a basic understanding of who the Red Devils are. I know I skipped through history a lot. We've got a lot of history. I could be up here all day talking about the history. So what do the Red Devils do? Very obvious, we do demonstrations. We do roughly 40 to 60 demonstrations per year, ranging all over the world. I've listed a few there. But some people are not aware we do nighttime displays also. I've had the question before, what's the point? How are you going to see it? Well, with the advancement technology nowadays, we have LED jumpsuits, and we also use pyrotechnics that you would have seen in the video at the start. Also with water jumps, we do about 3 to 4 water jumps a year if it's a good year. And I've been asked before, well, what kit do you use for water jumps? We actually have a completely separate piece of kit that's only jumped into water. So you can imagine my job as the rigger, having to pack that kit before the water jump, do the water jump. I don't even get to miss the water jump, I am on it too. As soon as we land, the kit gets taken to Boscombe Down, we wash it in these large tubs, take it apart and hang it up for like a week to dry naturally. Then it all goes back into the box after an inspection, and then the next water jump, it all starts again. So the guys love water jumps, but I really don't. It's a lot of work. And one that people not aware of that we do, when we jump in, we don't just get in the cars and disappear. We set up a public stand, and we have VR systems there, and we basically invite the public to come along, ask us questions, book on tandems. Next one, I said it earlier, but some people are not aware that we do tandem days. So we do 300 to 400 tandem days per year. Obviously, to the likes of Go Skydive and some other drop zones out there, this is nothing, right? But when we're doing demonstrations through the year, and in the next slide you'll see we do various visits and things, it's quite a lot of tandems for us. So the types of days we run, corporate days, charity days, days for just the public, and we do days for our sponsorship also. It says meet the team at the bottom. What do we offer as tandems? Obviously there's lots of drop zones out there that do tandems. Ours is slightly different. It's more of a meet the team day, so we invite them down nice and early. We give them a presentation, and they basically hang around all day, they jump, and we invite them to stay afterwards. They can stay as long as they want, basically spend a day with the team and get to meet everyone on the team. So it's more of a full day experience rather than an hour or two experience. And general engagement. So like I said, we have a stand after a demo, but during the year we also do various visits, school visits, college visits. Being the public services course, for those of you that know it, is a very good course that we go and attend because a lot of people there are wanting to join the army. Hospital visits, charity days, and once in a while we get personal visits. If we find someone who's a massive fan of the team, we'll invite them down to come see the hangar, and we'll give them a bit more of a personal visit. So that covers what we do. Well, hopefully it covers what we do. Next up is why, and I get asked this a lot. What's the point of having a army display team? So these are the titles we're given: recruitment, civil engagement, and defence engagement. Going to break those down a little bit. Recruitment's fairly easy to understand. However, what do we provide that's different from a normal recruitment stand? Well, a point to note, we're not actively recruiting. We're not going out there looking very army and saying, come and join the army. What we do is we provide a less intimidating approach. Personally, it wasn't me, but I can imagine at a young age going up to a military stand where there's a lot of camo and there's a lot of weapon systems. It's slightly intimidating. So what we do is we jump in. What we find quite a lot of the time is people come over and they'll talk about the skydiving first. Because we're in bright red jumpsuits, it's a little less intimidating than some camouflage. So I'll come over, they often talk about skydiving first, and then it rapidly goes on to the army. So we're just giving them a less intimidating way to talk about the army. Point there, we recruit for the whole army, not just the parachute regiment. People think we're out there just reg. We're not, however, we do find someone that is going to fit the parachute regiment. Obviously, we have our biased opinions. However, we are recruiting for the whole army. If someone comes up to us and asks us about another regiment, we're not just going to ignore them or turn them down. We're going to have a conversation with them, and we're more of a signpost. We're going to guide them where to go to get those answers. And we're letting people know that the army is not a job for life, it's a life for jobs. Yeah, I nearly stumbled on that one. But a prime example of that is I've been in for 10 and a half years now. I started off as a rifleman. I was a second in command of a rifle section, and I've been a boxing coach, been part of a boxing team, helped run the Skydiving Centre in Germany, and now I'm on the Red Devils. For those that are military out there, top grafter, right? So next is civil engagement. The main point of civil engagement is public perception, okay? So we go out there, we're interacting with the public and just letting them know who we are and what we do. The idea of the army is that we want the public to be as close to the army as possible. We need the public support in everything we do. So we're showing a unique side to the armed forces, so showing people out there that when you join the army, it's just not what you joined. It's not all army. There is a lot of other opportunities out there, such as joining teams like ours. We're also out there displaying the Army's capabilities. And like I've reiterated, bring the general public closer to the Army. Some people, this may be the first interaction with somebody in the Army. And if we're appearing like this, like I said earlier, it's a little less intimidating. They might ask the questions that they've been wanting to ask, but felt slightly intimidated to. And that does say defence engagement, but I'm not the best at PowerPoint. So interoperability. I was worried about saying that word, but I've got it out. What does it mean? So every year we go out and train with the Golden Knights in America. There's a few other teams there, the Black Daggers, Navy team, the Leapfrogs, and a few other teams. So what we do is we go out there and we do, after our 3-week training package, we do 2 weeks training with them. This is a formation we performed last year, and although to some crew guys out there, it might not be that impressive as it's just a diamond with a stinger. However, this is 3 different types of canopies with 3 different teams with 1 formation. We all have a different lingo, we all have a different way of how we build formations, and we also all have different drills. So for instance, the Golden Knights split their formations a lot higher. We split ours slightly lower, so we'll up ours to their heights while we're training with them. And this is just all around interoperability. I know we're 2 parachute teams working together, and you're probably like, how does that help with the Army? However, this goes further up in the Army. Battalions go out and work together. Below that, companies go out and work together, and we have battle groups that work together. So this goes much higher than just parachute teams. What have we got from defence engagement? US and UK Friendship Day. I wasn't aware this was a day in the year, but we have a day in the year for everything nowadays. But there's a US and UK Friendship Day. We were lucky enough to go and jump into a baseball stadium in Washington last year and represent the UK Embassy. Also, Sergeant Dean Walton at the start of the presentation, who passed away, and Stephen Hanley were the first 2 British guys to ever land on the lawn at the Pentagon. And trust me, I get reminded of that every day. Also not up there, it looks like just us going out to the US. A couple of years ago, we invited the US teams over here, and there was also 2 parachute regiment veterans who we invited down, and we took off from Duxford, flew over to Normandy for the 70th anniversary of D-Day. We jumped 2 veterans in, along with 20 other members of the other teams. After 2 weeks of training with the Golden Knights, we go out to Miami, and like I said about interoperability, this is what we can manage to achieve over 2 weeks for a 2-day demonstration. So hopefully in the last couple of slides, everyone's got an understanding of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Just to add on to the end of this presentation, I'm just going to talk about the Guinness World Record and how it ties into civilian general engagement. So that's myself there with Corporal Stephen Hanley. Does anyone recognise the man in the centre from a previous slide? Correct, that is Lieutenant Ed Gardner. It's one of the original members of the Red Devils. It's what a privilege for me. I managed to get Guinness World Record in front of one of the first Red Devils. So this is just a breakdown of how the Guinness World Record kind of unfolded. So in 2016 was the first time I witnessed the 2000 by hand. What I mean by hand is there's two parachutists either side and they're connected by a flag. So this was the first time I witnessed it. And being so new to the team, I didn't want to comment on anything. I was only just learning to be a rigger. But through the year I realised it didn't get jumped as much and I wondered why. It looked so good in the sky. Why are they not doing it as much? So in 2018, when I eventually become a rigger, I then got to work and I realised the guys were doing it out of a drop flag bag. So although they could pull it off, it just wasn't perfect. So what I did is I created the 2000 by hand bag. You can see in the photo there, it's a bit shameless of me, I didn't realise my tag was up there, but ignore that. That's the by hand bag there. All I simply did was flip the bag on its side so the flag deployed out the side, and I put a housing for the probes at the top to save time instead of probing up twice. And that was actually the first test jump, so I think I looked slightly nervous. 2019, so training then began to perfect the 2000 by hand bag. So what we did, I think we done roughly 20 to 30 jumps on this bag, and we wasn't jumping to get it right, we was jumping to get it wrong a couple of times. I remember the first 5 jumps on this bag went completely perfect. We thought we've cracked it. Slowly after that we were realising slight problems with carabiners, we added swivel hooks, we slightly adjusted the bags. There was a lot of problems, but eventually we perfected it. And then in 2019, it was almost the day we perfected this. Me and Steve looked at each other and go, well, if we're doing it with the 2000, why not do it with the 5? It'll be the same, right? So I've got a little video on the next slide of once we had perfected the 2000 by hand bag, we were lucky enough to get Red Bull's own Jeff Brasano down for a day, and this is what we come up with. So that was the 2000 by hand complete. That wasn't a record. So I've left this slide blank for a reason. Everyone remembers the year 2020, right? And no one wants to remember it. That was COVID. None of us were allowed to jump. But that was the year that me and Steve could begin rigging on the 5000 by hand bag. The reason for that is I wasn't packing the guy's kit all the time and I wasn't repairing the guy's kit. I had a lot more time to get on with this. I got left alone essentially. And this is the main part. The Guinness World Record, everyone thinks was our only aim. So it only come to us in 2021 that this was actually a Guinness World Record. Originally we were just going to go up and do it for fun. So we found out it would be a Guinness World Record, and Steve actually went through the process of applying. The email chain, I believe is like 200 emails long. I'm glad I wasn't CC'd in any of that. But we passed the idea, like I said earlier, up to Home Command. As we said, everything carries a risk and it has to go higher than us to get confirmed. Home Command realised we should add something onto this, we should get something else out of this, not only just a Guinness World Record. So they come up with this idea of Operation Captivate. And the idea was to influence and measure public perception. They realised the only real measure of public perception we were having was on our stand. We had an iPad and people simply pressed the green face or the red face. That's not a good measure. So with everything being on social media nowadays, we came up with the idea for various videos through the year. What we'd do is we'd take a measurement before every video, release the video, and then take a measurement of all the social media stats afterwards. That isn't just our own social media. We had tracking the Army's social media as well, the recruitment social media, and all the rest that are out there. So yeah, it's just to say that Guinness World Record was just a small piece of a large puzzle. The next slide is what we managed to achieve with the Guinness World Record.
My name is Stephen Handler.
My name is Lance Corporal Cameron Clark.
My name is Prav Patel. I'm the official adjudicator with Guinness World Records. It's my job to verify the record for the largest downplane flag flown while skydiving by team of two. So we measured the flag while it was on the ground. We had a surveyor came in and I verified the size. It was packed up and then loaded onto the aircraft. So we're now waiting to see how we do the downplane.
The current record is 380 square metres, and we're going to try and beat that with our 450 square metre Union Jack.
So the jump sequence is both legs into plane. We come down what we call pinning each other on the canopy. That means crashing one canopy into the other. We then compress coming down the lines. We'll then hook up the flag in between both, and then we split. When we split, we track the flag out, deploy the flag in between us. This is now called a bycam.
So once we're in the fire in the correct position over the drop zone, we'll start to downplane our canopies. How we do that is we both put in opposite inputs. Steve will put in right input and I'll put in left, and I'll make our canopies go straight towards the ground. Building speeds of up to 4 miles an hour.
This is what's known as the downplane. Red Devils, Army Parachute Display Team, you are the new Guinness World Records title holders for the largest downplane flag flown while skydiving by a team of two. Congratulations.
So if anybody out there is interested in what that bag looked like, on our stand out there we've actually got it. You're welcome to come and have a look, see how it works. It's no secret. After that Guinness World Record, I just want to thank Skydiving Neverhaven for facilitating all of that. Although it's just a short 1-minute video, the admin that went on behind the scenes was a lot. We were actually flying back from a demo, so we flew into a demo, jumped in, landed, picked up a new set of kit, flew back to Neverhaven and jumped in and done the Guinness World Record then. And thank you for Skydiving Neverhaven for facilitating that and always putting up with us, of course. So yeah, that's the end, and I'm open to any questions if anybody has any.
How many members in your team?
So there's 15 members in total. 1 officer, 1 senior NCO, 12 junior NCOs and 1 reservist. Hope I've done the maths right there. It's 15. Yes?
Forgive my ignorance, but what's the 511 on your top and the rock?
Oh, so 511, that's one of our sponsors. So they're a clothing brand, tactical clothing brand. They're mainly in the US, however they're branching over into Europe, and they just provide us with all of our clothing. Yeah?
Why are you called the Red Devils?
I knew that was coming up, and I prepared for it. So, it all started in North Africa in World War II, and the parachute regiment were fighting the Germans over there, and the Germans referred to us as Red Devils. The reason for that was the sand was of a red colour, and they said the paratroopers fought like devils. But also they wore a parasmock, and it has a piece of material that dangles between the legs, and it almost resembled a tail. So yeah, they referred to the paratroopers in North Africa as Red Devils. Anybody else? Shout if there is anybody else, because I can barely see. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and yeah.